Hello, dreamers. Welcome back to the Dream Reverse channel, where every journey starts with a dream. Here is your girl Beatrice, and I'm super excited to have you here on board once again. Well, today, we are going to explore a journey marked by resilience, cultural connection, and self discovery. Our guest is a remarkable leader in the international development sector who has embraced her rich Togolese German heritage and channeled it into a path of purpose and leadership. Join me, my dear ones, as we dive into the powerful story of Louisa A.Agossivi Sedjro, the first deputy chair of the supervisory board at GIZ, also known as Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, and uncover the wisdom she gained along the line. Let's dive right into it. So, Louisa, thank you so much for joining me today on the Dream Weavers platform. I'm super excited to have you today. Um, to start our conversation with, I would like you to share a tiny little bit about your background.
Yes, so thank you also for inviting me to this conversation. Always happy to meet also new exciting people in Germany, especially Black people. So I'm really happy to have this conversation with you. So my background, I'm Togolese first. I think this is one of my most important part of my identity. So I'm Togolese. I'm also German. I came to Germany when I was 8 with my parents and my siblings. And since then, I spent the most of my time in Cologne. So I would identify as a Togolese German. Um, and I think this is also when coming to my childhood and people that have shaped my life. You find mostly Togolese people, first of all, my parents. My parents have been really engaged also in the diaspora in Germany. And this is something that have shaped my childhood. People being in our house, supporting others, Togolese people who comes to Germany and then who need support in the first steps in Germany, which was not easy at all for all of us, and also especially for older people to learn the language. So we would go with people to the administrations and support them navigating life in Germany. And for me, this was like one of the essential also parts of our education, that we need to support others, and then also that we will receive the support back from others. So and then what have essentially shaped my identity also is one Togolese politician. At that time, he was prime minister, but also the main opposition in Togo. His name is Maître Agboibo. Agboibo, he was a lawyer, and he's one of the reasons why I started studying law then later on. For me, he was someone fighting for justice, human rights, also in Togo, and growing up with his stories, he being around with my parents and in our house, has shaped also my identity of how I want to be engaged also in the Togolese society here in Germany, but also maybe in Togo. And this was one of the reasons why I started law. So I'm a lawyer. I studied law in Bonn, did my first state exam, and then also the second, and then started to work for the German corporation, so GIZ.
You are from Togo. How have the cultural values and wisdom from Togo affected the way you grew personally?
Yeah, so for me, so I'm from Togo, I'm Ewe. So Ghanaian people know Ewe like from Ghana, Togo, but also Benin. And for me, this is like, I love to speak my mother tongue. We grew up at home only speaking Ewe and also French. Um, there was no German at home. For my parents was really important to also give us this identity and this culture of Togo, especially growing up outside of Togo. For them, it was important that we can also be able to navigate a life in Togo. So this was one of the reasons why at home we were only speaking Ewe and also French. And we were always connected to our family in Germany, but also in Togo. So when we are in Togo, we used to go to the village. I spent most of the time at the village with my grandfather, hearing his old stories, how he grew up in Ghana, and then later on, when he was then living in Togo. And for me, this was also one um, essential part of me knowing that I have another culture than the German one, especially as Black person. You always have the feeling in Germany that you don't belong. And every time I'm in Togo, I have this feeling that I can fully breathe. I cannot express this feeling, but I think all Black people who go back, they somehow have this feeling. And for me, the language is one essential part also to connect this to this culture. That's why my Ewe language is really important for me.
Thank you very much, Louisa. In your conversation, you mentioned that you grew up here in Germany. How was it like your childhood here in Germany? Please explain, tell us more about it.
Yeah, I think I had a good childhood in Germany. We came here in the 90s, and now being older and contextualizing also the stories in the 90s of racism, we felt it somehow, but I never had this feeling that the people surrounding me at school or something like that give me like harsh discrimination. I think it has also a lot to do with the area we came in. I think Cologne is more open still in Germany than other areas. But it was a good childhood. There were a lot of Togolese people in the 90s who came to Germany, also because of the political situation in Togo. So we were always in this community, and with my parents being one of the oldest in the community, we had a lot of joyful moments in this community, but also a lot with the Ghanaian community. My mother speaks Twi, Ga, and a lot of Ghanaian language. So
Wow.
that's why a lot of people think we're Ghanaian. So
And you can also speak Cree.
no,
What is that?
no. I only can say Debbie. This is what I learned.
Ah, so, okay.
Every time everyone says something, I say Debbie.
Baby, okay. At least it's
But what you
something.
say, I can say fine. So
That's
yeah,
interesting.
but it's like so my mother is speaking Ga, Tree, and all this language, so she was also really embedded in the Ghanaian community here. So we were somewhere between Togolese, Ghanaian communities, and this is something that shaped also our childhood here. So I would say that it was a really joyful childhood, critical situations, being stable in Germany, but this is something that affected, I think, my parents more than us young people. They did lot of things not to let it too close to us. But yeah, I remember all these times going to the Ausländerbehörde and all these works that we did for us, but also for other people. But for me, it was not something too hurtful. Um, it was something that we need to do. There was no time to reflect about it. We just did it. And this is, I think, now growing up and being able to reflect is, I think, one of the situations that also build up my resilience as a person. Um, but yes, I would say that I had a quite joyful childhood.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Louisa. You mentioned that you mentioned the German language. I mean, we all know how tough and difficult learning the German language is. So learning German must have been definitely tough for you. And how did you manage it? And what advice would you give to others who are learning a new language?
Yeah, so we came to Germany in August 94, and it was 1 week after the school has started. So we directly went to Grundschule. So we didn't had any German class. We just went to school. And for me, it was really hard. I was always really good in school. And then now being in German class, I couldn't speak the language. I didn't understand anything. And the only thing
Right.
that we were able to do, my sister and I, was math. Because like this is like, you don't need any language to
To do math.
calculate. Yeah. So this was the only part where we really could participate at school. And then we had a social worker at school, and she was French. So after the normal school classes in the afternoon, we used to have language course with her. It was my sister, I, and two Congolese children who were also at that time at the school with us. And this is how we learned German. And um, also with the new friends that we gained at school. And I think for children, it's mostly more easy because then you used to play with other children's, and children are, I think the best thing to learn language is with children. It's easier, but it was not that we went to a German class. It just came with the normal life and part of the integration also in Germany. But one thing, and this is also, I mentioned that we didn't speak German at home. And for my parents, it was really important, as they were not speaking that good German, that we don't learn the false German that they speak. So this was also one of the reasons we didn't speak German at home. And for me now, I think this is one thing that I really appreciate, because of that, I was able to not forget away and continue to learn that, but also learn German with the people who speaks really good German. And this is also my advice that I would give to other parents, um, that people, children especially, learn with the environment, and it's easy for them, or easier than um, for older people. But I think it was not the language part, but for us integrating in Germany as the children, like I had my friends in Togo, I had the whole big family in Togo, and now being here in a new environment, we were crying every day. We wanted to go back, my sister and I. We were like, okay, what is this? Where are my cousins? Where are my aunts? So we really wanted to go back. But yes, with the time going by, we gained new friends. And this was the time where we started to also feel at home. Or then.
Thank you very much for such a wonderful advice that you have given me as a mother, and also for our audience as well. Louisa, growing up as an African child here in Germany, what were the major challenges that you had to overcome?
Mm. For me, it was keeping my African identity was one of the major challenges. So I always liked this African fabrics and clothing, and even being at school, I like to mix these things sometimes with my clothes. And at that time, like, it was not cool to be black. Like, even in the black community with younger people, it was not cool. So it was not the time. Now you see everyone wearing African earrings or some African accessories or something like that. That was not cool in the 90s and beginning 20s. So for me, this was one thing that I always had the feeling also, that not only that the white society rejects my identity, but also the black community in Germany, the younger black communities. It was cool to be Afro-American, but not to be African. And for me, being an African and also being proud of that, it was sometimes like, you're not cool to hang out with us, with the black people. And for me, always, a lot of these people are now big in Germany for diversity topics, anti-racist topics. And I think, and I always feel like, okay, you need to reflect how you were in your childhood and so on, and how you saw this Africanness that we proudly affirm, and also a lot of Black people who are not African affirm that really proud. Let's go back to Ghana. Ghana is like return to home for everyone. Let's go to Nigeria, and it's becoming cool. But for me, it was never cool when I grew up in Germany to be African. Um, and for me, the most hurtful part was that within the Black society, that it was not cool.
That's a very powerful point that you have stated. Louisa, what kind of advice would you give to that tiny little girl, African girl child here in Germany who is struggling to accept her kinky, her beautiful crown of hair and her skin?
Mm, I think that it's a process, and as a little girl, you need to um, trust yourself and don't look at others. With my complexion, I've always been on the darker shades, also in my family. But it was also my parents affirming that, like, I don't need to change my skin color, bleach my skin color, because also bleaching is something really um, powerful in our community also, and even with this proud blackness that we affirm today, but you see that the lighter you are, you're seen more beautiful. So I would like to say that, especially to the darker Black girls, that you're beautiful like that, and that you don't need to bleach your skin color, and there will come the time where people will also value that. And if not, you don't need the validation of others to show and to affirm also that you're beautiful. And to say that also, I have my mom who used to tell me that in Togo, people would give you money if you're really dark. Like older people, they will give you money because
Wow.
like they're so proud to see like especially a woman
Mm-hmm.
being darker and not bleaching. And I was like,
Wow.
why should I? And then I was when I was in Togo, that exact happened to me, that an older man came to me who was like, oh, my child, I just saw you passing by, and I want to say that don't ever change your skin color. You're so beautiful like that. We don't see that really often anymore. And you can see that you have never done something to your skin color. So please keep it. And this was brain and like was in my mind all the time, like the story that my mom used to tell me, and then also experiencing that on my own. So for me, this was like something that okay, I'm good as I am.
You are good just as you are, and you are so right. Still on the youth, how did you find your purpose? Because we have a lot of youth out there who are still struggling to find their purpose. Louisa, how did you find yours?
Yeah. So as I said, in a really young age, we had this friend of my father who was politician, who was at our house, and my parents always used to talk about politics and so on. And I was always with my father also, and then participating at these meetings. So I heard a lot of hard things about life in Togo, but also in other African um, countries on a politic level. So for me, it was like, okay, I don't want to go to into politics, but I want to contribute in something that could change life of my country. And then it was like, okay, of the region where I came from. And then it was like, okay, at least as of the African continent. So I developed that, I think, with naturally, hearing what my parents were talking about, and always having this sense of injustice in me. So the sense that what is happening in a lot of countries are not right, that people are suffering. We always talk about financial situations, but I think that the legal part is really crucial. And this is one of the reasons why I decided at that time, meeting also this lawyer, um, fighting for human rights, that I decided, okay, this is what I want to do and having more legal background also to understand certain things. And I think that the rest just came by God's help also. I think that everything comes in a certain way, and maybe to my name. So my surname Sedjro in Ewe. So Se can be God or your destiny,
Mhm.
and Dro means willing. So what you want or what your destiny wants. So for me, it's always like my surname just giving me the direction of my name, and I believe also in that. So I would say that it just came also naturally.
It just came natural, and you are definitely a blessing for all of us, to all of us. Louisa, looking at your extensive career background, you have worked on many projects about diversity and inclusion. What personal values or experiences motivate you in these areas?
Yeah, I think that for me, especially working in the development sector, like international cooperation as a Black person, is already a challenge because we are those who are seen as the beneficiary. Like white people in international cooperation see that we are those that are poor, we are those that are not educated, and we are the beneficiaries. So we are never at the table of decision making. And if you look into structures of international cooperation, it's not only the German, but in general, you look into structures of development cooperation, international cooperation, you see who those are who are sitting at the table and taking the decision. So this was also one aspects why I then started to be engaged into these topics within my framework. So for me, it's like working in the international corporation should have an added value as maybe white people working in this sector. And for me, being there as an African, being there as a Black person, the added value is also to bring our perspectives to the table, and for that you need power. So we all talk about, yeah, you can do things on grassroots, but you need power. And for me, the power should not be for me, but to be able to bring the voices of those to the table who are not able to sit at the table, and to bring their perspectives. And most of the time, I wouldn't say that it's my own perspective, because I have been socialized in Germany. So I also have some white perspectives sometimes, and I would say most of the time. But I try also to still be connected to others who are African, 100%, who live at the African continent, and also to understand a little bit more of what their experience working in this sector, and also having exchanges with my family and other people, other African that I meet, help me also to define what I want to do in my work life, and also in my um, life also as now part of the supervisory board, for example.
Thank you very much, Louisa. In your conversation, you spoke about power being a key to, a key factor to for transformation in our society. How can then one balance having power and then relating well with others too? You know.
Yeah. So I think what happens most of the time is, if you have power, then you start also to not yeah, taking this as the responsibility that it is. I think human beings tend to use power for themselves, and then you have corruption, you have a lot of things that comes also with the misuse of power. So for me, it's referring back also to my education. As I said, like in my childhood, we used to support a lot of people who came to Germany who are in a difficult situation, and to support them with the little things that we had. And it's not always the big things, but just accompanying someone to the Ausländerbehörde can be a big support at that moment for the person. So for me, this is something that I always refer to my values. And I think if you refer back to your values every time, you will not, maybe you come to the temptation, but you will not go with the temptation. So for me, it's that, like, knowing the temptation of the which brings power also with it, but not go with this temptation, but refer also to your values and listen also to people around you. I have a lot of colleagues that advise me in my work. I have a lot of colleagues that I talk to. I talk to my family. They are not in this development sector, but it's also helpful to talk to other people who are not in your work circle to gain other perspectives of things. And this really supports a lot with the work that I'm doing.
That's wonderful. Louisa, how do you balance your work and your personal life? And what do
Um,
you, yeah, what do you do to take care of yourself? I mean, you are a very busy person. How do you balance everything all together?
yeah. So I'm someone, I pray a lot. People are always irritated when they see me, and then I say, okay, I'm someone, I go to church. I did 2 days of pilgrim this week. So this is something I try to do every year since I'm 10. Every year I do a pilgrim. I try to take 1 week, 1 day every month where I go into the spa. So this will be today, after our conversation. And then I spend a lot of time with my friends and my siblings. I'm really close to my siblings, and also my partner. So I think I have, like, also a really busy personal life also. And people think I'm always working all the time, but I have my time that I take. And since 2 years, I'm really consequent also on that, that I take this day every month to go to the spa. And I try also to go to Togo every 1 or 2 years, and that for a longer period. So, for example, last year I was there for 6 weeks. So this is something where you really have a break, and you can calm down.
Right. That's wonderful. Goals that you have for your future, and how do you hope to inspire others with your journey?
Yeah. I think my next goal would be to become also, like, I'm now the supervisory board, but this is like parallel to the work that I'm doing in GIZ. So I think my next step would be like having a leadership position also in my work. I did a leadership assessment end of last year that was successful. Thank God. So for me, the next step would then also taking a higher leadership position. Um, and then also I think that I've learned also to take my break offs. So for me, it's now also to figure out how I could have more break, that is not only this 1 day every month, but um, try also to balance it out a little bit more. I see a lot of friends also around me having burnout, and so on. I think also the stress also in the society in general for Black people, it's getting more and more intense. And for me, this is something where I want also to preserve myself from, and staying healthy.
Staying healthy. And Louisa, as we conclude this beautiful conversation, what do you want people to remember you for? And what are you doing to make sure your impact lasts forever, if I might say?
Yeah, I think I work hard because I want um, the sector I'm in to remember me as someone who came in and who changed something also for the community, not only the Black community, but for me in general, it's about like including BIPOC more into decision making in development and international cooperation. And I want people to remember me for that. So being, for example, the first Black woman um, in the supervisory board of GIZ, I don't want to be the last Black woman, or I don't want to be the last woman of color in general. So I hope that it's only a starting point for other women of color and for other BIPOCs in general. And this is something that I work also on to mentor also people to be able also to do more than what I do now. I think that we should not limit us on the highest level, but to allow other people to continue what we have started and then to fulfill more that what we have done. So this is something that I wish I could foster more.
You could foster more. Thank you so much, Louisa. That was definitely a powerful conversation that I had with you. I have learned a lot, and I do believe that our audience as well. And I
Thank
hope
you for inviting me also. It was
that
really
was my
nice.
pleasure. It was. We should do this one once again. We should have
Yes,
that conversation once again.
yes, I would be happy for it.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.